Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris here, and today I want to offer you what I hope is a fresh perspective on Fallout 76, which was released in November of this past year, so it's been out for maybe 5 or 6 months now. I have not, or had not rather, played it up until a few days ago. So when it was announced that it was coming out, I got really excited about it. I love the Fallout series. I had played through Fallout 3 and finished that, played through Fallout 4, finished that as well. But as the launch of the game got closer and a more clear picture of what the experience was going to be started to kind of become fleshed out, I got a little more leery about it, and I decided, okay, I'm just going to wait and see what the critical response is. Not that that's always a great way to gauge whether or not something is worth checking out, but I wanted to see what that looked like in conjunction with the player response and what gamers think about the game and how well is up to the Fallout experience and what people expect out of that. So when it was released and reviewed and essentially got blasted by critics, not universally, in a lot of cases it was sort of described as being an okay experience, but not really a true Fallout experience. I decided to wait a little bit, especially given that there were a lot of reports that it was super buggy and super hard to play through and deal with in that regard. So I just decided to let it breathe and to let Bethesda work on it, maybe get some patches out into the game, and to see if they could actually get it into a more workable, more enjoyable state. So again, a few days ago I picked it up. I've been playing it pretty consistently ever since. And I've played it enough now that I feel like I've got a good sense of what they were hoping the game would be and what it is now, in sort of a more repaired state. So for me, I'm coming at this fresh. I didn't see the game at launch other than footage that was available online. And so I'm getting it as kind of a new game in that sense. And so what I'm hoping to do today is give you a review that focuses on how it plays now, as if you're tackling it as if it were a new game, whether or not it does in fact embody what Fallout should be in terms of gameplay, in terms of there actually being a story, which there is a story, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but it's not a story in the same way that you would have seen in Fallout 4, for example, or any of the other Fallout games, really. But it is there, and it is enjoyable with a couple of caveats. So I hope you enjoy the video, enjoy the gameplay footage, and just let me know what you think about the game if you've checked it out. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe. And let me know what you think about Fallout 76. Let's take a look. Okay, so, jumping into this game, upon first glance, you can see that it very much mirrors Fallout 4 in just terms of overall design of your HUD and the items that you've got in front of you. So, of course, the Pip-Boy is making a return, as you would expect with any Fallout game. And the menu there is pretty much universally the same as what you've been exposed to if you've played any of the previous Fallout entries, at least the 3D first-person shooter versions of that. And so it's easily accessible. As someone who's played the other games, as I've mentioned, I was able to jump right back into it and knew exactly how to navigate the menus and to figure out what was going on. And so from the perspective of a first-person RPG, which is really kind of what Fallout is, not a whole lot has changed here. In fact, nothing really has changed here, for better or worse. If you have played Fallout before and you didn't really like the interface and the way things are set up and the way things are paced, in terms of the overall progress of those titles, nothing here is probably going to really change your opinion on that, I wouldn't say. Again, for me, I really like Fallout. I like the games in general and the way that they allow the stories to unfold there. So, no qualms for me in that regard. I did mention earlier that there is a story here, and what I've experienced so far is kind of a loosely told, loosely connected string of side quests. One primary quest, which is kind of the main story, but a bunch of side quests and this main quest that are tied together through the use of clues and tape recordings that are sort of sprinkled throughout Appalachia in this environment. So, you kind of have to play a little bit of a detective role and sort of piece together what has happened to the people that have lived in these towns like Morgantown and everywhere else you go through in West Virginia as you sort of make your way around the mountains here. But it is there if you're willing to put the time and effort into it. Really, though, there are no NPCs, as a lot of other commentators have said. Besides some robots here and there, what you're usually coming upon are corpses that have notes next to them or around them or near them that kind of help explain what's been going on outside the vault since you've left the vault. And as you can tell from the title, and as you probably already know just from your general knowledge about the game, it's called Fallout 76 because it takes place 300 years after Independence Day in the United States. And so it's 2076 after a nuclear war has ensued. And so, the usual stuff you discover once you wander out of a vault at the start of a Fallout game are there, including feral ghouls, bloatflies, rad roaches, all that kind of stuff, right? And you have to manage your radiation exposure, among other things, such as making sure you don't get famished, do you have enough food, making sure rather that you don't get too thirsty. So you have to constantly either boil water or find boiled water or purified water. And treat that. And so there is kind of a balancing act here that I think is a little more pronounced than in the previous Fallout games. If that's something that sounds like it would be interesting to you, then you'll probably enjoy it. If it sounds like something that would be kind of a pain to you, it is kind of a pain at times. You can see in some of this footage that I'm constantly, having to stop, open the Pip-Boy, and I'm sure there's a shortcut menu here that I can navigate to make this a little bit easier, but just sort of check out, what kind of food I have, what kind of water I have, because my character is constantly thirsty and constantly hungry, so that's something you have to keep an eye on. So even though the other Fallout titles were very much survival heavy, this is the most survival heavy in terms of gameplay elements of any of the Fallouts that I can recall. So in some ways that's a good thing because it does make you very aware of the items you're picking up, so you can't just take everything from every opponent you kill and just assume that you can carry that without being weighed down, which was a component of previous Fallout games. But you have to be really careful about that, and you really learn to develop a sharp eye for rations and things that are going to keep your character alive and moving along at a good pace throughout the gameplay. So in that regard, it is engaging, and again, I think depending on how you approach this, it's either going to be a good thing or a bad thing, just depending on what you want out of it. But I would say that overall, even though there is a story, there is not the same level of storytelling here as would have been the case with Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3, or Fallout 4. It's just not the same thing. So what people are really playing this for, the people that are playing it, is really the exploration, the collecting, the seemingly endless side quests that are here for you to do. And so one of the best ones that I've been able to do so far and finish had to do with visiting Vault-Tec University and entering one of the fraternities near the campus there and learning how to make Nuka Shine. And then, it asks you to test the effects of Nuka Shine. And it's kind of like Red Dead Redemption 2 where you get a little bit drunk in the game and you can see what that looks like. And it's sort of a humorous component of it. But it's little missions, kind of bite-sized missions like that really define this game and make it enjoyable. Again, I'm a few hours into it. I can only imagine it's going to get much more involved as things go on. And in terms of the enemies that you come up against as you make your way through this, for me, so far, mainly it's been local wildlife, the type of thing that you would expect from a Fallout game, and then Scorchers and Feral Ghouls and the like. Now, to address the question of whether or not the game is buggy, yeah, it's buggy. It's not maybe as buggy as you've heard. And I will say, given my understanding that they've patched this numerous times and they've tried to make it as smooth as possible, and I'm playing this on an Xbox One X, I do encounter a number of bugs every time I load the game up and start playing, but it's not anything that's game-breaking. Like, I've never been kicked out of a game, kicked off of a server. But, for example, I ran across a feral ghoul who was seemingly frozen in place, and I kept hacking at with a machete, and blood was coming out, and nothing would happen. There was one time where I was walking down a highway, and I came across a pack of bloatflies that were stuck in the pavement with their wings flapping, and they were just frozen. But again, it didn't break the gameplay. And, some people like to write that sort of thing off as, just sort of Bethesda charm. I kind of have mixed feelings on that. I don't believe in giving developers a free pass on constantly having bugs in the game. And I would say in no way has Fallout 76 gotten a free pass from anybody. It's been more heavily scrutinized in a lot of ways than any games I can remember other than EA offerings because of microtransactions. But there are some things in the game that could be made better, but again, nothing game-breaking in my experience yet. If anything changes with that, I'll be sure to report back. But in terms of just oh, and before I get too far ahead of myself, online interaction with other people. So this is a fully online game, and you have to be mindful of that going into it. So when I first started playing, I loaded into the game, I wandered away from the vault, and the first thing I heard was a bunch of gunfire erupting, and I wasn't entirely sure if that was people, taking on a group of enemies, if they were taking on each other and trying to rob each other. The people that I've bumped into while playing the game have all been totally nice so far, and nothing's been, made this what I would say is an unpleasurable experience or an unpleasant experience. So in that regard, it's good. I haven't been attacked by anybody yet, even though I think, looking at the achievement list, there is an achievement for killing another player. So at some point, I'm going to have to party up with some people and figure out how the raiding component of this really works. Because I haven't gotten to the point of launching a nuke and all that kind of stuff that they sort of advertised with this game when Bethesda first announced it way back when. But my online experience has been good. Most people seem to keep their distance unless you sort of invite them to come hang out with you. But one criticism that's been levied at this that I think is kind of an accurate one, and again, it's good or bad depending on how you look at it, but it is a really lonely feeling game, right? I mentioned the lack of NPCs earlier, other than some robots you run into, but there's not a whole lot of music. You do get a lot of crisp sound effects in terms of wind blowing, crickets chirping, that sort of thing, and of course the enemy noises that they make, but really you're sort of wandering through this world all by yourself. And so that's kind of a lonely thing, but it does accurately duplicate what I can only imagine a survival experience like this would be like, a post-apocalyptic experience. So, good and bad, I think, in relation to that. So just to kind of bring this full circle and to summarize, the big question is, is it worth $60? If you look on Xbox Live's game store, they're selling it for $59.99. I would not pay $59.99 for it. I paid $40 for it at Walmart on sale, and I think $40 is the ceiling I would pay for this. I think, in playing what I've played so far of it, I'll probably get 40 to 50 hours of gameplay out of this, and we'll take a break, and if they release some more DLC, which I think is coming soon, I'll revisit it. And I think I'll get my money's worth. It's the kind of game that so far I've enjoyed in small doses, an hour or two here and there. It's not like a previous Fallout where I would sit and play for 6 or 7 hours at a time into the wee hours of the morning. So in that regard, so far, I feel like I'm getting my money's worth. But, if you're thinking about picking it up, I would just ask yourself, what do you want out of a Fallout game and how much are you willing to pay for it? My recommendation, don't pay any more than $40, at least currently. They may release more content that makes it more worthwhile to do that, but that's sort of where it is now. So if you play Fallout 76, let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you agree or disagree. And again, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. And I will be back very soon with another video. I've got a couple of planned for the remainder of the week, so keep an eye out. Thanks for watching.
Do not confront the raiders yourself.